shall speak peace unto the heathen, peace unto the heathen. He shall speak peace, he shall speak peace, he shall speak peace, he shall speak peace unto the heathen, he shall speak peace to the heathen. He is the righteous Savior, and he shall speak peace, peace. He shall speak peace unto the heathen, he shall speak peace to the heathen. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice greatly. Rejoice greatly. O daughter of Zion, shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy King cometh unto thee. Rejoice, rejoice, and shout, 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 rejoice greatly. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy King cometh unto thee. Behold, thy King cometh unto thee. Behold, thy King, he cometh unto thee. Behold, thy King, he cometh unto thee.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Vania Chan Music. Today we're featuring musical artist Paul Ayres. Paul is a composer, arranger, choral conductor, musical director, organist, and accompanist, and is based in the United Kingdom, working in and around London. Paul has had many works commissioned, performed, and published. He has collaborated with several musical ensembles, taken part in music workshops and education projects, and has performed concerts and recitals all over the world. And one thing I should point out, Paul, you're my very first international guest on this YouTube channel. So I'm very happy that you're here today. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. And thanks very much for having me on your show.
Oh, happy to have you here. So now we actually haven't worked together before. So through the magic of technology, this YouTube channel is essentially our first project together. And along with our viewers, I'm also getting a chance to get to know you. So let's begin with how you got into music. Please tell us about your musical background.
The first thing I can remember was when I was about 8 or 9, and I really wanted to learn piano. And I don't know why, because, you know, we didn't have a piano in the house, and, you know, there weren't musicians in the family. It's just,
right.
I must have seen it on TV, I suppose. And I kind of nagged my parents, and they took me for piano lessons, which I really enjoyed. And about the same time, my best friend from school recruited me into the local church choir. Because in those days, the choir boys got extra pocket money for singing for weddings and things like that. So that was a huge incentive. So it was through piano lessons and singing in the local church choir. And as soon as I started playing piano, I really wanted to write tunes. And I think when you're a little child, it's exactly the same joy as when you just draw a picture or write a story or write a poem just for fun. And I just love, you know, working out tunes on the piano and I'm sure I wrote when I was 9 sort of, a minuet that was probably a bit like Mozart because that's
Oh,
what I was
wow.
learning.
Mhm.
And kind of songs and things like that. And it was quite a late decision actually when I was a teenager because I'd never really thought of music as a career or anything to study because I enjoyed it so much, but it was all extracurricular. It was all kind of
Mhm.
not what you did at school. So I was planning until I was about 16 or 17 to do maybe study maths or science or something. And then, I was actually doing so much music outside of school. I thought, well, perhaps I can do even more of it if I study music. So I went to the
Right.
music degree. And since then, I've just been freelancing, essentially, trying to do all the musical things I've always enjoyed and avoid getting a proper job.
So how would you describe your compositional style?
I think it would be kind of styles probably because I write for
Styles.
lots of different groups and I love I love writing for amateurs and children, so obviously that's got to be fairly accessible if maybe it's the first time they're doing anything that's new, but
Mhm.
if I do get the opportunity to write for professional or advanced performers, then I can make it a bit more complex. But I guess it's not avant-garde experimental. It's very much within the Western tradition, but hopefully just sort of building on all the music that I loved when I was learning, and that I still love, which is
Mhm.
mainly Baroque music, and
Ah.
then kind of stuff that's post 1950, but not very
Mm.
much from the sort of 19th century and early 20th century in between. That's a bit of a blank area in my musical knowledge.
Do you have a favorite composer or artist? And perhaps you could name a few musicians who have influenced you.
A favorite composer would have to be Bach, but I mean
Mhm.
there are so many, and you know if I'm performing or rehearsing, a really great piece, of course, at that very moment, that is your favorite composer. So it could be Monteverdi or Purcell, or I mean Benjamin Britten was, I think, is quite an influence in my work. And
Mhm.
then people like Arvo Pärt and Alfred Schnittke. I think almost anything that I hear, I'll be influenced by in some way or another. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. You're immersed in that musical world and that soundscape, so it'll creep into your writing for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. If you could pick one favorite performance moment from your career so far, it could be an event that you performed in, or a performance of one of your compositions or arrangements, or even both. Which one would it be?
That's actually quite hard to
It's
answer,
hard to
and I
answer.
think it's again it's slightly sort of because at the time you're kind of really into it, and then
Mhm.
it's a little bit hard sort of just finding one that's more favourite than the others. It's like sometimes when as a composer you have to apply for things, commissions or grants, and they say send your two best pieces. I mean, I don't even know what that is. It's like saying who's your favourite child,
That's
because
true.
you love them all equally. So yeah, I'm being like a politician, and I'm completely not answering that question because I just can't decide.
That's okay.
I feel I heard this great phrase. I can't remember who said it. Nothing is quite as good or as bad as it seemed at the time.
Hmm.
And there have been some things that I've taken part in, and I thought, well, that's really great. And actually, well, you listen back to recordings, and I know recordings aren't the same thing as a real life experience.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's not quite as great as you remember it, but it was just something to do with that particular day.
Hmm.
But it's also reassuring because I've come out of performances, particularly things I've been playing for, and I thought, oh, I didn't play that very well at all. And you listen back to it, and maybe it's not perfect, but maybe it's not quite as awful as you thought as you kind of stepped off stage and thought, oh no, I'll never do that piece again.
So let's talk about your arrangement of Rejoice Greatly. What made you write this arrangement?
Well, I'm very glad that you're going to sing it, actually, Vania. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to hearing it. And what's great, the reason I write music is, I might have in my mind how it's going to go, but what's really fascinating is seeing how other artists interpret it. But I think what happened when I was growing up, because I sang in the church choir, and then when I couldn't sing treble anymore, I had a
Mhm.
really encouraging choir director who said, well, you play piano, why don't you have a go on the organ? And I
Mm.
really loved that. So I started playing organ, um, for some of the church services. And I think what I particularly liked about it, that I didn't really realize at the time, was in my piano studies, I had quite a strict piano teacher. And, you absolutely had to learn what was on the page. And I guess that's a common classical thing, isn't it? Whether you're an orchestra or whatever. But even when you're starting out on the organ, you're sort of encouraged to have a little bit of freedom. And certainly if you play in a church, you kind of reharmonize the hymns, you sort of improvise a little link in between things. Or if you're playing mainly Baroque music, which is a lot of organ music, then you're deciding on not only the stops to choose, but the ornamentation and the kind of the style. There seems to be such a lot more freedom in that kind of work. So when it comes to Rejoice Greatly, which is part of a big project called Messyah, which is a rewritten Handel Messyah, it's just sort of, I've played these pieces and listened to them so many times. I thought, well, why don't we just try it in a different way and sort of improvise around it, maybe change the style of the song, maybe for some movements they're really, really contracted and sort of pared down to their essence. In other movements, I've just sort of gone off on some kind of tangent. So the idea was to actually go through the whole of Messyah and rewrite all 51 movements. And I did say in jest to some very serious musicians, because obviously Handel didn't do a very good job the first time round. There was this kind of awkward silence because they actually thought I was serious. But I mean, it's because Handel is so great, you can perform it in a million different ways. And this is just quite an extreme interpretation of the original aria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is it's infinitely adaptable. And just like Handel did, because you look back at what he, every time he performed this work, he would slightly change the arias because he had a different singer. And that's why there are these, version 1, version 2, version 3. So it's absolutely, it's kind of before the era where, the sort of the master composer would write one manuscript and it's this kind of, holy scripture that can never be altered. He was a working musician, but, I'm sure he would, adapt things to make them work for that particular audience in that particular time.
Right, great. Are there any upcoming projects that you'd like to share?
At the moment, and I think it's a lot to do with the COVID lockdown, but
yes,
I find this in general in the kind of freelance world, there are all, I don't know whether it's the same in the kind of things you do, there are always quite a lot of possible things that might happen. And you're never quite sure until the last minute whether they're going to go ahead, because it depends on logistics and getting the right people in the right place at the right time. So, I mean, iron's in the fire, but at the moment, I haven't got anything sort of hugely definite coming up in the next season or two, but, there are possibilities. What I've been writing recently is quite a lot of really small scale stuff. And that's partly through necessity, because musicians have wanted pieces that only use 2 performers, for example. So I've actually written a lot of 2-part musics and 2-part inventions for keyboard and duets for 2 instruments and a polyphonic 2-part mass, because Bird wrote a mass for 3 voices, 4 voices, 5 voices. So I thought I'd just get in there on the smaller scale and do a mass for 2 voices. So I'm really enjoying just sort of writing some kind of miniature things for very small forces.
Let's move on to a game called Quick Fire Questions. I will ask you a series of questions and you just answer with the first thing or preference that comes to mind. Okay? Coffee or tea?
Coffee in the morning. Tea at tea time.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
What's your favorite color?
Can I have yellow and orange?
Yes, absolutely. They're kind of like the shades of sunshine, which I think is kind of nice.
Yeah, the color of sunshine.
The color of sunshine. That's great. What's your favorite season? Spring, summer, fall, or winter?
Fall. Autumn. I have to translate it.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Sorry.
Water skiing or skiing on snow?
I would snow, I guess. I've not tried either. I'm not very sporty. But I mean, on snow, at least I won't fall over and also drown. I will only fall over.
I hear you. Name a country or place that you haven't been to before but would love to visit.
I'd love to go to Egypt.
Name one famous person you would love to meet. It can be someone currently living or someone from the past.
Can I meet Handel?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he'd be a really good fun guy.
What's your favorite meal? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Dinner.
Dinner. Okay. Cats or dogs?
Cats. We have both. We have both in the house, and they are in the house. They're equally annoying because they're always under your feet. But cats leave you alone more.
If you could transform into any animal, what would it be?
Walrus. Walrus is my spirit animal.
Really?
Apparently. My dear wife, Mrs. A, gave me a cuddly. We were doing something like this, a kind of quiz, and said, what animal would you be? And apparently, I'm a walrus, and I was so offended because I thought, well, that's just some slobbery lump of lard that smells of fish with massive whiskers. But I think she meant it in a kind of kind way. It was kind of kind of sedate, slightly kind of the Buddha of the Arctic or something. I don't know, but so yeah, we've got this running joke that I'm a walrus.
Okay, well that's a very unique and unexpected answer, but I think she definitely meant it in a lovable way, I would say.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
If you had a time machine, would you travel to the past or the future?
I would travel to the past because there's so much interesting stuff there, and it's kind of when you're a child, you don't want to know what you're getting for Christmas. It has to be a surprise, and I think I don't want to spoil the surprise for the future.
I hear you. Yes, so it would be wonderful to travel to the past without affecting the future too much, I guess.
Yes, there's also the danger of altering the course of history because of the space-time continuum. So
yes,
very careful of that.
Space-time continuum.
Very careful.
Very careful. Normally, this is where I would move on to picks from the past. But since this is the first time that we're working together and collaborating, we don't really have any pictures together that we can look back on. Well, since this is the first time that we're collaborating, we can take a still shot of our YouTube talk right now and consider this sort of a picture to commemorate the moment. So I guess smile for the camera. Just one more quick question before we finish our interview. Paul, have you been to Canada before?
I have.
Okay.
Three or four times, and I've really loved it. This has been mostly doing organ recitals.
Okay.
When I started out, I was kind of quite ambitious, I suppose, in my 20s as an organ recitalist. So I kind of, organised lots of tours and kind of played everywhere I could. And and I still play, but I don't quite spend so much time on that. I'm kind of more into composing and arranging. So yes, I had a lovely time I've been to Toronto and Ottawa and somewhere else. I think it was just those two cities.
Okay. We've finally come to the end of our interview. Once again, thank you, Paul, for being here today. It was so much fun getting to know you. Here's hoping that this will be the first of many opportunities to work together. To our viewers, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Say hello in the comments down below, and please support us by subscribing to our channels. I'll leave our YouTube website and social media links in the description down below. Hit that notification icon so you'll know when a new video has been uploaded. Until next time, keep smiling and keep a song in your heart. Bye for now.